So we should be able to get you a good look at our PM system and give you the information you need.
Okay.
So are you on, Roberto?
Yeah, I think he's there. Yep.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
Okay. Well, I guess we can start then.
Okay.
Nelson, are you driving?
Not anybody else?
Anybody else, Janet, that we're waiting for?
Nope. Nope.
Okay.
All right, well, let's get started then. Janet, my name is Nelson. I'll be going through the software today with you. I've got Melissa on the phone too. If she's got any thoughts or anything, she'll chime in. But really what it comes down to is, we want to kind of show you what you need to see. And frankly, we don't really know what that is exactly. So we're going to go through the regular flow of the demo, but feel free to kind of guide us. If you have questions or want us to slow down or skip over a certain part or whatever, just let us know. We'll kind of do whatever is going to be best for you, okay?
Okay.
We'll start with this home screen here because this is the screen that you see when you first open the software, and it functions a lot like a desktop on your computer. On your desktop, you probably have different icons that are essentially just shortcuts to different documents or programs or whatever. That's really what this is too. So you've got different shortcuts. These are things, these are shortcuts to different reports, but different parts of the software. But it's not necessarily specific to the Spring Charge Practice Management software. I mean, here's links to, Microsoft Word, or here's something to Chrome. Here's the Windows calculator. So different things that you can do to kind of just have quick access to things. So you can build this. You create your own categories. You decide what goes underneath each category. Okay. You can get back to this screen at any time by clicking on this home icon up here at the top. We also have our forward and backward arrows like an internet browser. So if you wanted to jump back to a previous screen, for example, you could click that and it would take you back there. We also have a lot of shortcut keys inside the software. So I'm going to use the mouse for most of my navigation, but when I get into payments and the ledger parts, I do like to use the keyboard a little bit more, but you can use the keyboard throughout the program in a lot of different ways. There's a lot of different function key shortcuts, so those F keys up at the top of your keyboard, you can jump to different parts of the program using that, as well as anytime you see a letter that's underlined, like the letter U here, or the letter P, or S, or so on. It just means if you hold down the Alt key, so for example, I just clicked Alt-E, which is the same as if I would have come over here and clicked on Setup. Okay. The setup part of the software is basically where we would tell you, hey, this is where you would go when you first got the software. You're going to set up your practice. I recommend giving everybody a username and a password for them to log in. That way it tracks everything that's done inside the software. This is where you can go in and designate what each user can or can't do inside the software. So the providers, fees, insurances, your codes, and so on. Once you've kind of gone through these two top sections, you can start using the program. These areas you may or may not ever use, just kind of depends, but we won't spend any time on that today. But for the rest of the demo, we'll kind of just flow through it like this. Okay, so I'm going to jump over to the patients. If we've set it up, then we're ready to go. This will be your patient list. All of your patients would be listed in here. But this list down here at the bottom, just like every other list inside the program, when I say every other list, it's like any of these. So whether it's your provider list, insurance list, code list, whatever it is, they're all set up similarly to this, where down at the bottom you kind of have a grid, and then up at the top you have different filters. Now you can have as many filters as you want. So you come over here and add additional filters. This is how you kind of narrow your list down. So each list is going to have its own set of filters, but you can combine things. For example, I could say, show me everybody that has this insurance. Okay. Show me everybody that has this insurance as a first name that starts with the letter J. Okay. So that's really up to you what you decide to do. You even have this cool new feature, which is advanced filters, where you can build, basically you can take these a step further. Instead of saying, show me everybody that has this insurance, you could say, show me everybody that has every insurance but that insurance, or that has this insurance or this insurance, things like that. You can really do a lot of different stuff with that. In addition, this grid view down here is also customizable. So if you come over here to customize view, it'll tell you which fields are currently being displayed, but you've got all these other fields that are also available to display too. So if you'd like to add or remove different columns on your view, you can certainly do that. You can also decide how narrow the column is. You want to make it a little bit more narrow or change the order of it. You said, hey, you know what, I want to have default primary insurance over here. Click and drag it, whatever you'd like to do. Okay. You can also change how it's sorted. So you can see this is sorted by last name currently is what this little black triangle means. If I click it again, it'll sort it Z to A instead of A to Z. If I wanted to sort it by city, I could do that or whatever. Okay. So just a lot of flexibility as far as that goes. If we did a new patient, pretty simple. You can click new patient, or again, you can use your keyboard. I told you the F8, those function keys you can use. You can also right click, do new patient. If you click on new patient, it's going to open up the screen. If you have any defaulted fields, those will populate automatically. So you can set any field in here to be defaulted in automatically if you choose to. Anything that you do default in could be changed though. So for example, if you said, hey, 75% of the people we see are female, I want to go ahead and default female in here. And then, we only change it for the 25% of the people that are not female. You could do that. You can see that the background color for this last name is kind of a pinkish color. The first name is like a yellowish background.
Yep.
That just means that the last name is a required field. So it won't let you save this new patient without that field filled out. You get to decide what fields are like that, if any. You don't have to have required fields, but if you want to designate certain fields as required, you can do that. The yellow is just a recommended field or suggested field. You also can set that up. So you could say, okay, these are the ones that you have to fill out. These are the ones I really want filled out, but try to get those. But if for whatever reason you can't get it, fine. And then the white fields would just be everything else. So there's a place you can set that up if you want to. I'm going to jump out of here and we'll go into an existing patient real fast. And we can talk and see a little bit more what it looks like when it's all filled out. Now, when I double click on James Davis, this alert box pops up. This box is going to pop up if you go into the scheduler for that, if you go to an appointment for that person, if you go into their patient record like we're doing right now, or if you go into their ledger. It can be turned off, but currently it's turned on. And so it'll only pop up for people that actually have alerts. So if people don't have alerts, no box will pop up. It's kind of divided into two parts. So you've got this top part here, this bottom part here. When I click OK, you'll be able to see immediately where the top part pulls from. Just anything that's in this box here. Okay, and you can change the size and color, style, whatever you want it to be. The bottom part of that alerts box pulls from here. This list is totally customizable. It doesn't even have to be medically related. It could be more billing related alerts or whatever. Okay.
Okay.
Or you could just choose not to use it. It's up to you. But this is what it looks like. Pretty simple stuff. The program is going to create a city and state database based on zip code. So as you start to type in zip codes, it'll populate the city and state for you automatically.
Right. Yeah, they're all doing that.
Okay. In the any of these fields that have this little magnifying glass next to it, it just means that it's the drop-down list is a user-created list. Okay, so you can add to this list, edit this list, delete this things from this list, whatever. You're kind of building this list. So any of those are like that. If I wanted to jump to the actual list itself, I could click the magnifying glass, and this is kind of where it goes to that list I was telling you about, the grid with the filters. So if you had a ton of insurances and you're in the insurance field here and you wanted to make sure you've got 12 different Blue Cross Blue Shields, you want to look at all of them or whatever, you come in here, use your filters to make sure you find the right one if you'd like to. These are also like a hyperlink, so when you click on it, if you hover over it, it kind of turns blue and underline. If you click on it, it'll take you to the screen where you can edit into the information as well.
Okay.
Going back here, it will list appointments. So I'll, future appointments, past appointments, all be listed in here for the individual. If you link together as people as family members, they'll be listed here. That just means that they share the same head of household. So James Davis is the head of household for all of these people. So Paige, Sarah, John, Annie. If I wanted to double click on Annie's from here, I could do that and it would take me into her record. Okay, just like it would anybody else. Okay. Insurance, just going back there real fast, we got primary, secondary, and tertiary insurances. There is authorizations here, visit series. I would not recommend doing that from here. I'd recommend doing that from the ledger if you use that at all. This is stuff that, again, we talked about this. This is not going to pull from SpringChart, so this will just be blank for you. The emergency contact information, extra fields, so just any extra fields, if you wanted to have an extra field in here, you could do that. That being said, you do have the ability to hide any of these tabs. So if you're like, hey, you know, I'll never use this extra info tab, you can just hide it so it doesn't show up here. Same thing with patient vitals. This stuff is not going to feed in from the EHR, so I'd probably just hide it. It's just going to be an empty tab that you would never use. So billing defaults is just if somebody has a specific default diagnosis you want to have in here, you can do it. However, it's probably not going to be that important just from the standpoint of that stuff is likely just going to come from the EHR anyway. So if you put something in here, it's not really going to affect the ledger if you're billing from the EHR. Okay, so if you're pulling the stuff, which the software will automatically pull the stuff over from the EHR, and if it's doing that, then you know this part here, at least the diagnosis will be irrelevant. The facility and primary care physician and attorney would be relevant if you had those. Okay, but the diagnosis probably not.
Okay.
Do you have any specific questions about the patient area of the software?
No, not yet.
Okay. All right, I'm going to jump over to the scheduler. Okay, because I was in James Davis's record, it does populate James Davis up here. So if I wanted to schedule an appointment for him, I could just click and drag it down to the time I wanted it. So, oh, hold on one second here. I just set this up, so I've got to do something here real fast. I just installed this right before just to make sure we had it going right. All right. So yeah, if you were in a patient's record, it would put it up here. You can click and drag it. If you want to just schedule an appointment, you can just double click on a time slot if you want. It'll open up the area here where you can choose somebody, say for example that, and save it. You can set up a length or a color if you want to. You can also set up reason codes. Reason codes will default in a color and a time length for you. So if you set up a routine checkup, I click on that, change it to purple, and put in for 30 minutes for me. Okay. If you'd like to see like a different view, maybe see this as a week at a time, you could do that. Just today's, or even a month. Okay. You can also create different views if you have multiple providers. You know, here's a view that's got 4 different providers in it. Here's a different view that has just 2 of the 4. You know, so you create different views if you'd like to. If you want to like click and drag an appointment to like move it to a different time or a different doctor or a different day, you can do that. If you want to lengthen an appointment, you can do that. So you want to make it a little bit longer or shorter or whatever. You'll notice when I make it long, there's that different information there, the copay, cell phone, their age, their insurance, their patient responsible balance, all that stuff. If their appointment's short like that, you can't see it, but if you just hover your mouse over it, it'll pop up in that little yellow box there for you. These little icons here mean stuff. So this red circle is a status icon. It means it's an unconfirmed appointment. Come down here to status, you can see there's different options. So if they confirm their appointment, it would, you know, you want to mark it as such, it'll change the icon or whatever. Okay. So there's some different options as far as that goes. If you do use those statuses, it does have a timer in the background that will count, for example, from the time somebody checks in to the time they're being seen to the time they check out. If you want to like run reports based on that to know how long people are being seen for certain things or whatever, you can do that. You can check eligibility for an appointment, either for an individual appointment or for an entire view. So today's view is Friday, you know, for these 4 different doctors. So if I had a full day for all 4 of these, I could run an eligibility check for all of those patients all at one time. Okay, it could be any day. So if I wanted to today, you know, today's the 9th, if I wanted to go to Monday as an example right now and check all of my appointments for Monday today, I could, so I could check the eligibility that way. You can send email reminders here. You can print the schedule from here. You can add it to a recall list. So if you say, hey, I want to call this person in 6 months for a follow-up, you can do that. Copy appointments and cut appointments to paste them into different spots. You can do that as well. There's a little message bar up here too. So if you wanted to write something in here, you can. You can make the font big and red if you want to, but it's things like it's somebody's birthday today, for example. You could say, hey, don't forget to wish, Janet a happy birthday, so that when people come in and look at the schedule for the night, 'cause it's going to be date specific. Whatever message you put in here would be specific to the night. So I could jump to a different date, write somebody's birthday in here, or hey, we got a package coming in, be on the lookout for the UPS guy, whatever it is, but different things like that. You can also set up templates. See if I have any templates set up. Okay, so I do. So here's templates. I guess I have some set up for lunch. It's kind of these gray, not necessarily gray, they could be whatever color, but it's a background color. So for example, if I went to Tuesday, I guess I have one set up. So you can set these up to kind of color the background to designate, hey, we've got lunch at this time, or hey, we only want to schedule these certain kinds of appointments during this time. Or you can even use templates to block out somebody if they're on vacation or whatever, to know not to schedule. Different ways you can use it. But if they have these little green circles, well, it's green arrows, I should say, that kind of forms a circle. That means it's part of a recurring series. So this is an appointment that she has, maybe every week or something. So yeah, she has it every week on Tuesday. So it's just every Tuesday at that time she's got an appointment scheduled there. So it kind of tells you that. I mean, there's a lot on the scheduler, but I don't want to bore you to death on that. Do you have specific questions? Is there anything in particular you're looking for on a scheduler? Or,
Well, I'd have to think
What's
about that
important
more,
for you?
but I mean, I definitely am liking the way it, what I'm looking at right now. It makes it a lot easier, so
Yeah.
it saves some time to be able to do all that.
What specialty are you?
Internal medicine.
Okay, perfect.
Janet, are you still using the Tech Pro
Yes.
billing software now? Okay.
Yes.
That's one I'm not familiar with, so. Tech Pro, is that what you said?
Yeah, it's Tech Pro. One of our VARs up in, she's in Massachusetts, I think, actually.
Yeah, Matt.
okay.
Yeah.
Have their own billing software. They have quite a few practices in Massachusetts and Rhode Island, I believe.
Gotcha, okay, great. Okay. Well, if you come up with any other questions about the schedule, just let me know. I mean, we can always jump back to it at any time. From this point, usually from the scheduler is where the EHR piece of it's going to come in. So you check somebody in, they're seen from the doctor, they get taken to the back, their vitals are taken, sit down, see the doctor does the note, and when the doctor is done with that note, that information is going to the procedure codes with the diagnosis codes will flow back over into the this area here. So when you go up to activities, okay, there's this encounter charge entry area, okay, and what it does is it would list, so there aren't any, but it would list all the charges that had come over. They'll just be coming over automatically as they get finished up. So at any time you could come into here, and it would just show you any of the things that have populated in here. So if you did this every hour or every day, once a day, twice a day, whatever, it's just going to show all the stuff. So it'll give the patient's chart number, it'll give them their name, that today's date if it was today, or if you did this first thing and there were some leftovers from yesterday late afternoon, it'll have yesterday's date, the procedure codes, the fees, all that stuff. It lists them all here so that who's ever doing the billing, I don't know if that's you, Janet, but you can come in here and view all the stuff, and it's a quick, easy way to just kind of look at everything that came over and verify it. And if you need to make changes. Sometimes people have to add modifiers. Maybe the doctor didn't do that, or whatever it is. They can add in a little thing here if they need to or whatnot. Once that's been done, you kind of basically approve it. There will be an option. There's not right now because I don't have anything here, but it'll say post, and you can click on that, and it'll move all these charges from this screen over into each individual person's ledger. Okay.
Okay.
So that way, at that point, you can bill and you can see everything done for the patient in their own ledger. It just saves you from having to go into each individual person's ledger to look at everything. You know, it's like, hey, if there's 20 different people that came in this morning, I don't want to go to 20 different ledgers. You can just go to this one screen and see everything. If you want to go into a ledger after the fact to see the detail on everything, you can, but if you want to go straight to claims, you could do that to create your claims and bill out your claims. I'm going to jump into the ledger just to kind of show you what it looks like, because at some point you're going to need to. There was my little message again.
Yeah.
This is what the ledger looks like. It's very, very powerful. I mean, I've worked for several different companies, and this is the best ledger I've ever seen. You know, it's very powerful billing from the standpoint of it shows you everything. You can look up everything. Everything has detail associated with it. But it also allows you to make any edits or modifications, fix anything if you need to, as long as you have, you know, the security permissions to be able to do that. So let me give you some examples of some of the stuff. So I did show all this. If not, the software has the individual can have multiple billings. Billings just a group of transactions. It could be a single data service. Usually would be when it's coming over from the EHR like that. But you can add, you know, multiple dates of service to the same billing if you want to. So we're going to look at billing one just to kind of show you a little bit what it looks like over time. So you've got, you know, your different charges, and then underneath each charge will be the associated adjustments and payments.
Yep.
In this particular billing, there are no patient payments, but if there were, they would be under here as well. Every time a claim has been printed or sent electronically, it will tell you that up here. Every time a statement has been sent out, it'll show you that as well. Everything has details. So if I wanted to look at this specific claim, I could just double click on it, open it up. Okay, it shows me the claim, you know, and I can do that. If I wanted to look at the statement, somebody calls me on the phone about a specific statement that was sent to them, you can double click on a statement, you know, and it'll open it up and you can view it, okay, and see the exact same statement. So it creates like a PDF of every statement that was sent. You can reference back to that at any time. The charges have detail. If I wanted to look at this payment, for example, double click on it, tells me this $40 payment was actually part of a $100 payment. Click view and it would show me how that was all distributed out. So a bunch of different stuff you can do as far as that goes. You even have the ability, like I said, to show also combine all the billings together into one screen. You can see like what a refund would look like if there was a refund. There's notes or patient payments, kinds of stuff you can do in here. You can even do this view mode where you can kind of, you know, group things by account number, for example. So you say, hey, I want to see everything, how many things were done. It tells you all your procedure codes, how many of each procedure code was done for this individual. So they, you know, over the years they've had 15, you know, office visits, 99213s. I could click and it would show me all of those. If you wanted to, you know, narrow it down and say, hey, you know what, I want to exclude everything but charges. Just show me the 15 charges and not the payments and all the other stuff associated with that. I could do that. Okay, and it just shows me those. So a lot of different things you can do as far as that goes inside the ledger. If you let's see. Oh, there's some different things here too. So you've got, if your screen's wide enough, my laptop I'm doing this on isn't super wide like my regular monitor, but you have these different things you can see, you know, if you want to as well. So a lot of different tools. Do you have any specific questions related to the ledger?
Nope.
Okay. Let's jump over to claims. Actually, you know what? Before we do that, let's do this. should do. Let's go back. Let's do a little bit more of what it might look like for you. Okay, if you came in and looked at the ledger. So let's say that you had come in and been into that encounter charge entries. A bunch of charges had flown, had come over from the EHR portion of things, and then you looked at them, you made whatever changes, and you then came into the ledger. This is essentially what it would look like. Okay, here's the 3 charges, and we say, okay, yeah, this looks good. We're ready to put these on a claim, and let's get them sent out. You could create a claim from here if you want. It'll create a claim for these 3 different charges. It'll put it on one claim. That's a fine way to do it. There's nothing wrong with that. But that would just be one person at a time. If you had gone into the encounter charge entry area and done 20 different people, you'd have to go into each individual ledger to do that, which you don't necessarily need to do that. But if you came to claims, you could create all 20 of those different people all at one time just by doing new claim. It will ask you if you want to filter the claims at all. You could say, no, I just want to leave it blank. I want to do all 20 people. It'll go out, find all the transactions, okay, which I guess it's been a while since I've done this because there's 18. We only put in 3 just now, but it went out and found all of them. Any transaction that's not on a claim that should be. So I'm going to go ahead and continue that. And it's going to go through and create all the different claims. So it'll tell us how many claims were created.
Where do they go to a clearinghouse from there?
Right now they're just being created. They're not being sent or anything yet. Okay.
Okay.
So we just created them. It says 4 claims were created. It puts them up here at the top. Here they all are. Here's the one from today. So if we look at it, it has today's date, 3 dates of service on it. One of the reasons I know that it's from today is because of the timely filing deadline too. So it's going to put in, I've set Blue Cross Blue Shield up as a have a 90-day timely filing deadline. Right. I mean, I do that for demo purposes. It's probably more like 180 days or something like that. But you can see automatically this one already is brand new claim. We just created it today, but it's already red because it's already, the date of service on here is already so old that, it's from there must be a date of service on here from January. So if we click on it, sure enough, here's these old dates of service. So we've already missed our timely filing deadline, which is why it's red. Okay. If it was close, for example, on June 18th, which would be 30 days before this one expires, the font would turn purple. Okay, instead of red or black. That way kind of tells you, hey, you're getting close to your deadline. If your claim is paid, okay, then it just turns back to black. And it'll do that automatically once you post a payment, which we'll get into in just a little bit. It'll change it to black, even if it was purple or red. It'll switch it back to black because it's irrelevant at that point. The timely filing doesn't matter if you're paid. But you'll also notice that sometimes there are claims that have failed validation. Okay, so when you create a claim, it goes through a little claim scrubber. If you go into it, it'll tell you why it's failed validation. Okay, so all of them have those options where you can kind of open them up and go to this tab here and see why they're done. If you wanted to quickly fix it and then update your claim here on the left, then it would redo it and it would say, oh, pass validation. So do you have any specific questions about claims so far? I mean, I guess we've got our different filters, and like I said, lists. You can customize this, see different fields on here. If you're looking for a specific claim, you can put, the date of service in here, and you could say, hey, show me everything that has a date of service for today. Well, obviously the only one's the one we did today. Okay, so some different things that you can do as far as that goes. But from here, if you wanted to, send them or print them, that option is available to you. So over here on the left-hand side, you see print and send and send. If it says the word selected after it, print selected or send selected, it's only going to do whichever ones are highlighted. So if I
Okay.
wanted to highlight a few of them, you're like, hey, I want to do this one and this one, you know, it's like, okay, those print selected, send selected, it would do. It doesn't matter what the status is of them at that point, okay? Let me do this. So if you do one of the ones that doesn't say the word selected, for example, okay, then it's going to take all of the claims that are ready to bill. Okay, so you have all these ready to bill claims. Take every one of them that's ready to bill and send them, as long as that insurance is set up to go electronically. So for example, let's say First Health was not set to go electronically, then it would send all of, and I did send claims, it would automatically create a claim batch for all of the ones that weren't First Health. And so when we were done, they would all say billed, except for these 2 First Health claims, which would still say ready to bill. And so then I could just print those ones, okay?
Yep.
But the software allows you to send to, you know, your clearinghouse of choice. We have some that we like better than others, but I don't know, are you currently using a clearinghouse now?
Yeah.
Okay, what clearinghouse are you using?
Capario.
Which one?
Capario.
Capario, okay. Well, and they just got bought out. Did you know that?
I did, yes.
Okay, so they're owned by MDON now.
I don't know what the name is anymore.
It's MDON who owns them, but yeah, if you wanted to continue to use them, you're welcome to do that. Now, I will tell you though that that eligibility checking won't work through our software, through our scheduler, or any of the other places in our software through Capario.
Okay.
But if you want to do your claims through Capario, you can. But our clearinghouse that works on the eligibility side, there's 2 of them. One of them's called Apex, and the other one's called Trizetto. Okay. But yeah, as far as claim goes, you can use anybody. Once you've sent your claims out, you know, you're going to get paid, and that's the whole point of everything up to now. All right, we just want to get paid. Before I jump over to payments, any questions on anything we've covered up to this point?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Payments are going to be handled one of 2 ways. Either you're going to have an ERA or you're going to get an EOB back in the mail. Do you guys do one of those options, both of those options? How do you guys do it now?
We do the EOBs.
The paper EOBs?
Yes.
Okay. So are you interested in learning how to do ERAs, or you say, hey, no, I don't care about ERAs?
No, I'm definitely interested in ERAs.
Okay. Okay. So let's go through both ways. I mean, I think our system handles both very, very well. ERAs are always easier because it just, you don't have to type anything in. But if you have an ERA, you're going to download that from whoever website you get that from and save it to a location. Then you'll open it in here. And for the sake of this demo, we basically have 3 different options. I have all 3 options in here. Okay, we've got the white, the red, and the blue. We're very patriotic, I guess. Just realized that. But these are the 3 options that you could have. White means everything's okay. So when there's a white, it's like if you click on it, it's going to show you, here's the detail for Jesse down here at the bottom. Okay. The red one, Monique, it means there's some sort of issue with it. It couldn't match up with what came back on the ERA with the person's, anything in the person's ledger. Okay. So it lets you go through and fix it, where it basically says, okay, this is what we got back. Okay, we got back a payment, okay, for a 99211 on 8/15/2010. So if there were multiple issues, you know, payments that came back, they would all be listed, and you just click on the first one you wanted to work on, go to next, and now it's going to go into Monique's ledger. And it's going to say, okay, this is everything that's in her ledger. In this case, there's only one thing, but if there were other things, would show, and we could see, hey, how about that? It's the same date, but the code's different. So this is what they paid for. This is what we billed out. So Medicare downgraded the procedure. They downgraded from a 99212 to a 99211 for whatever reason. And again, this is just a demo, but you could say, yeah, that's what I want. I want it to match up to that. I want this one to match up to this one, and boom, now it's not red anymore. Okay, so
Right.
now it's found something to connect to.
Mhm.
And blue just means denied. So if we click on TAD, we can see it's been denied. Okay. If you wanted to edit anything, you could. You can see everything. You know, this is what we charge, this is what's paid, this is what's written off. If you said, hey, I want to change something, I want to put a note, or I want to mark it as follow-up, you can do that. If you have a reason code, it'll put in here. That way you can bill a secondary insurance if they have one. So different things like that that you can do. But when it's all looks good, you just click post all, and it'll post, you know, each payment and write off against the specific charge it's tied to in each individual person's ledger for you. Okay, so you don't have to type any of that stuff in. So, any questions about ERAs?
No.
Okay, let's jump over to the manual way of posting. You can do insurance payments or patient payments for that matter, which we'll get to in a little bit later, but from the payments area or from the ledger. I prefer it from the ledger, but I'm going to do it from the payments just because we haven't been to the payments. We've been to the ledger already. So we're going to do new payment over here. This by default is going to show you all payments for today. Okay, when we click on there, no payments have been entered in yet today, but so nothing's showing here. But if there had been, they would be listed. If you wanted to look up a different day's payments, you could do that. If you wanted to see all payments, you can just hit delete, and it'll show you all the payments that have ever come in. And you can find, you know, again, it's like all of your other lists. You can customize your view and use filters to find a specific payment or whatnot if you'd like to.
Mhm.
But I'm going to do a new payment over here. And when I do new payment, it's going to ask me if I want to do patient or insurance. So we'll do an insurance payment first. Who's the insurance? What insurance is it from? What's our check number? And then how much is the total payment amount? Okay, it's not just for John Doe, or in this case, James Davis. So I'll do, if the check came in and it was for 12 different people, we'll put in the total for all 12 because you're going to distribute the whole entire check all at once.
Right.
So let's say it was $5,100 or $5,112, and we distribute that, and then we choose our patient. The reason I like doing it from the ledger better is that when you click it, you're already in a person's ledger, and that person already has an insurance, right? So if we would have been in James Davis's ledger and we click new insurance payment, well, we wouldn't have had to choose Blue Cross Blue Shield because it would have already populated Blue Cross Blue Shield since that's his insurance. And then when we would have clicked, when we click distribute, we wouldn't have had to choose James Davis because we were already in his ledger. He would have already populated as the first person. You know, if it was 12 people, we'd still have to choose the other 11, but at least he was chosen for us already.
Right.
But here's the different charges. As simple as, you know, basically coming in here and saying, okay, they allow, let's say they allow 50, which it says there, but he has a $15 copay, so they only paid 35. It automatically wrote off this for me as I tabbed through it because it's basically taking the difference between what is allowed and what we actually charge. Okay, and wrote that off. If there was another something I wanted to adjust off, you could do that. If you want to do a follow-up, you can check that box. Follow-up just means that, well, it's two things really. Number one, it means that you want to follow up with the insurance. You don't think they're done paying, okay? If I don't check this follow-up box, it's going to move this $15 to the next responsible party, okay, automatically, which in this case will be the patient. If they had a secondary insurance, it would be listed right here underneath, but he doesn't, so I know it's going to go to him. If I mark the follow-up box, it won't. It'll say, hey, we're still, don't put this on the patient responsibility level yet. Okay, I need to find something out. And it also puts it on a report, the follow-up report, so that you can call the insurance. It lists all the stuff on that report. So if you did a big check and you had several different people that you were following up with, different charges, you can at the end of that print that report out and then just call the insurance and have all the stuff in front of you that you did. So you're not like, okay, I got to mark this and then I got to write it down on a paper and make a note of everything that I marked it. It's like, no, just print the report when you're done and you're good. If you want to put in a note, you can do that. It says rejection note. That's what that's supposed to be. It's not really necessarily a rejection note. It's any note you want. If you wanted to mark that it's a co-payment, I've set that up so it'll print on a statement. So when they get a statement and it says they owe $15, there will be a little note on it that says co-payment.
Okay.
So it's just an option. You don't have to do that. It could be internal notes. It doesn't have to be printed. You know, they can be notes that print on statement. They can be notes that are just internal. It just depends on how you set them up. So then we go to the next one, and they say they paid all 30 of that one, and they paid, say they paid $7 on that one, and so there's like $1 left over, and you're like, I have no idea why they left $1. I'm not even going to bother worrying about it. I'm just going to give them a little courtesy discount, and I'm going to write that $1 off. Okay, so you can do something like that. So now we've got this, and it's done. We can say post payments. It's going to tell me that claim number 55. It won't say specifically that's claim number 55, but I know it's claim number 55. Say one claim has been marked paid. So if I were to go back to my claims list, it'll say claim number 55 has been paid. I click OK, and now I just move on to my next patient. You know, I've still got $5,040 left, and I just move on to patient number 2 and keep going until I've got this down to 0. If at the end of the, you know, this happens sometimes where at the end of the, you know, it's a large dollar amount. When you get to the very end, you've got 42 cents left over, and you're like, oh great, what did I do? I messed up somewhere. You know, you can always just go back into the payment itself in like, you know, where it has the here, and it'll tell you. You know, you could say, okay, so if it was tons of different people, we want to maybe uncheck those and say, okay, let's just look at all the payments, and they would all be listed here: James Davis, John Doe, Monique Hernandez, and you can just kind of match it up with your EOB to figure out where your 42 cents was that you messed up. And you can go back in and fix it at that point. Any questions about payments?
Nope.
Okay. Well, at that point, you probably send statements to people. Do you guys send patient statements?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm going to jump over to reports. By default, the reports section is going to default to your favorites category. You decide what reports are your favorites. But I'm going to jump over to statements. I'm going to use this statement here. I'm going to run it, and all this fun stuff will show here. Okay. I'm going to go to James Davis, and he actually probably has this is a family statement. Okay. So I did a family statement for him, or that's what I'm running. Family statement just means instead of just him on his statement, so he's got 3 pages. It also has family members, so if he has other people, then it'll show. Here is the one we just did today. Excuse me. Where this was the date of service. Here's what was paid. Here's that note. Oh, I guess I don't have this one set up to actually say the description, which would be important because CP doesn't actually mean anything to anybody. So need to set that up, I guess. But where it would say co-payment as the description instead of just the thing, so they kind of understood maybe why it was what it was. But if I go to the last page, you know, there's a little thing for page on here. So here's the total for James. Then page has a couple of things too. So you don't have to run family statements. You can run individual statements, whatever, it doesn't matter, but it's just an option for you. When I go to print these statements as an example, we'll do print file here actually. It'll come up with this message here that says, do you want to mark these as printed or as billed? If you hit yes, at that point it's going to basically make a copy of it and put it, this is what it's doing right now, putting it into each individual person's ledger, so that when I went into, you know, James Davis's ledger, so let's actually do this. We'll go to claims first. And we'll look at claim number 55. If you remember, that was the one that was paid, so that's paid. Now we'll jump into James Davis's ledger because he's highlighted here. It'll automatically take us to his ledger. And it was, actually don't know what billing that was in. Okay, so there's different ways to do that. I could do show all and find it, or I could go here and say, hey, I want to find a specific day. It was in March. I actually don't remember what it was because I wasn't paying that close attention, but I remember it was in March at some point. So here it is. So, but you could also see, so if we want to pay this in a second, we could do that. So that's an option, but I wanted to show you this too. When you go into here and look at like your different statements, we can see that statements says, and the reason it's all the same statement, okay, but because there's so many different dates of service on it that are in different billings, you wouldn't, in real life, you probably wouldn't have it like that, but it puts a note on in each billing. So billing number 1 has 1, billing number 31, and so on, okay? If we wanted to do a new patient payment, say he then wanted to pay a part of or all of his stuff, I can click on that. It'll show me the stuff that was on the statement. Okay, some of the stuff wasn't on the statement, probably because it's still pending insurance. If I wanted to exclude insurance responsible, all that stuff goes away. Okay, the stuff that's still waiting insurance. So this is stuff that just he owes, stuff that was on his statement. If I wanted to show family, it'll add the 2 things from Paige Davis's on here too. So if I wanted to pay some of hers as well, I could do that, okay, all at one time. But let's say he made a payment of $100. Okay, there's different ways we could do it. We could come in here and we could say, okay, we're going to do 15 to this, 15 to this, 15 to this, and 55 to this, right? And that's my $100. I've got 0. Okay, that's one option. Option number 2 is you could say, you know what, sometimes people just say, hey, I want to just get rid of the oldest stuff first. Okay, so I'm just going to go auto apply, and it's just starts distributing it to the oldest stuff, okay, until it runs out of money. It just so happens that it was an even amount, that it worked out perfectly so that everything, but if it was, you know, $105, well then 5 of this would have been paid for, and this would say $10 left on it.
Right.
That makes sense.
Right.
So it doesn't matter how you do it, but those are some of the options as far as that goes for the purposes of our demo today. I like to leave some of this stuff here for demos, but I will do some of this stuff. I'll do what we did before. So 55, 15, 15, and 15. And there's my thing there. And I'm going to save that, which means it'll post those to those amounts. And those things would then not show on a patient statement again if I run another one. And then after all that, you know, if you want to come into your reports and run day sheets or deposit slips, all kinds of different reports in here. You can do practice analysis. There's a lot of really cool reports. I don't know what you guys currently use or do now, but there's some really cool things. Do you have any questions about reports or payments or anything at this point?
I have a question on payments.
Sure.
Where do you stick, if you, like, say the insurance company paid twice and you know that they're going to take it back, do you have some kind of a credit column to stick it in so that when they come and take it back, it's sitting in there against that patient and not just the general spot where they all go?
So there's 2 different ways when it comes to the insurance like that. There's what we call an insurance take back, which is what I think you're talking about, where they basically say, hey, we overpaid you on this person, or we found out they weren't really covered for this, whatever it is, but they say they cut you a check for $900, but their EOB comes back saying they're paying for $1,000, and they're like, hey, here's 900 of it. The other 100 we want you to take from John Doe and add it to this $900 so that you have your 1,000. You can distribute it that way. When you do that, that's done from the payments area in the take back column. Mm-hmm. So if we were in here and let's say that they said, hey, you need to take some money. I don't think anybody else has Blue Cross Blue Shield in here, actually. Let me do this real fast. Blue Cross. Oh, several people. Okay. Let's do this then. So let's say they had paid $30 for this person and they wanted you to take the $30 away to give it to somebody else, or the $15 or whatever. You just come in here and anything you type in here will add to this amount
Okay.
so that you can distribute it to somebody else. So if I put $15 in here, oh, except that I need a different line so for it to actually show up. But when here, I'll just do it this way. See, it just added it. So now I've got $5,055 instead of $5,040. And now I could go to James Davis or whoever else and use that $15 now to apply to somebody else.
Okay.
So the other option is to actually cut the insurance a check and a refund, and that's done differently, but I don't know if you ever do that.
Well, we prefer not to do that, but doesn't mean we haven't.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions or?
No.
Okay. Well, and that's essentially the demo. So.
All right.
Well, thanks, Nelson and
Yeah.
Melissa. Janet, do you have any other questions? Maybe not related to the demo, but otherwise, maybe on the quote or on anything while you got me.
I don't at the moment. I'm going to take another look at it,
Okay.
so we can just, so the quote stands as I have it. So everything's separate the way it's done, and
Yeah.
like the Appointment Book Pro and the Coding Advisor is, I'm taking it for codes to be put into the system.
The coding book or the coding advisor is kind of like an online coding book, so you can look up codes and so forth. Did I include the codes on disk? That's separate, but that's
Yeah, it's on there, medical codes on disk.
yeah. The coding advisor is more kind of a way to look up codes. So you don't necessarily need it. It could be useful if you're looking for a specific code.
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay. Good. All right.
All right.
Let me, yeah. We'll have to sit down with Dr. Eunice again, and Roberto's watched the whole thing, so
Okay.
we will talk about it and get back to you. How's that?
That sounds great.
All right. Thanks very much.
All
Thank
right,
you. Have a good
thanks.
weekend.
Have a great
Thanks,
weekend, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thanks. Yep.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.